Over a span of 25 years in 19th-century Pennsylvania, 5 women married the wealthy industrial magnate Jeremiah Hartwell. Each bride entered his grand estate on Beacon Hill vibrant, intelligent, and full of promise. Yet every one of them descended into complete psychological ruin within months of occupying the mansion's master bedroom. The pattern was unmistakable and chillingly precise. By the time the truth surfaced in 1835, the revelation stunned not only Millbrook County but the entire state. Authorities uncovered not misfortune nor a cursed bloodline, but a calculated scheme, one designed to break women's minds in secret, carried out methodically and without mercy. Tonight, we reveal the horrific reality behind the Hartwell mansion, and how one man engineered madness with such cold precision that his methods still provoke horror nearly 2 centuries later. The story begins in the flourishing town of Millbrook, tucked into the coal-rich valleys southwest of Pittsburgh. By 1820, the Industrial Revolution had transformed this once modest agricultural area into a thriving commercial hub. Its skyline marked by factory chimneys along the Monongahela River and opulent new estates built by industrial fortunes. Into this charged atmosphere arrived 25-year-old Jeremiah Hartwell in 1821, a sharp-minded and fiercely determined young man from humble Ohio origins. Unlike many of his contemporaries, he did not inherit wealth but fought ruthlessly to obtain it, having learned early in life from his blacksmith father that ambition required both intellect and steel-edged willpower. Within 5 years, he established the Hartwell Iron Works, specializing in railroad components essential to America's westward expansion. Completed in 1828, the Hartwell mansion stood as a gleaming symbol of his rapid ascent. 3 grand Georgian stories with 42 lavish rooms, imported marble sweeping landscaped grounds, and a master suite occupying the entire east wing of the second floor. Its French-painted wallpaper, carved cherry-wood bed, and towering windows overlooking the valley inspired awe throughout Millbrook society. But Hartwell's success extended beyond business and architecture. He commanded every room with striking height, icy blue eyes, and prematurely silver hair, exuding a magnetic charm that captivated rivals, socialites, and prospective brides alike. Local elites eagerly sought his attention, and their daughters were drawn to his wealth and elegance. Hartwell possessed an uncanny ability to make each person feel uniquely valued, securing his position as Western Pennsylvania's most coveted bachelor. So when Hartwell announced his engagement to 19-year-old Margaret Dunlap, daughter of a respected judge, Millbrook rejoiced. Their October 1829 wedding at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church was hailed by the Millbrook Gazette as the decade's grandest social affair, attended by over 300 guests. But soon after settling into married life, Margaret's radiant personality began to dim almost imperceptibly. Known for her lively wit and social grace, she became distracted and distant, often staring out windows with a peculiar, unsettling intensity. Her sister Catherine later wrote that Margaret behaved as though the mansion itself were alive, turning abruptly toward empty doorways, as if summoned by whispers. When questioned, she simply smiled strangely and murmured about old houses having their own language. By summer, Margaret's behavior grew more alarming. She refused to sleep anywhere but the master suite, insisting she belonged there and nowhere else. The servants, initially fond of her gentle spirit, soon became unnerved by what they dubbed the watching habit. Margaret would stand for hours before the bedroom windows, not gazing outside but studying her own reflection in the glass, tilting her head slowly as though examining a stranger. Her unraveling peaked during a formal dinner when she abruptly rose, approached a dining room mirror, and began a spirited argument with her reflection. Guests watched in horror as she laughed in an unfamiliar shrill tone and paused, waiting for imagined replies. When Jeremiah attempted to lead her away, she resisted, insisting the conversation was unfinished. That night, the head housekeeper, Sarah Quinn, discovered Margaret naked in the master suite, calmly stripping the French wallpaper by hand. When questioned, Margaret smiled serenely and explained she needed to see what lay beneath. The exposed walls revealed nothing extraordinary, only plaster and wooden laths, but Margaret appeared satisfied, as if uncovering a secret hidden from everyone else. Family physician Dr. Harrison Henley examined her the next morning and found her physically sound yet displaying what he termed severe nervous exhaustion complicated by obsessive melancholia. His notes would later serve as key evidence. Margaret believed her reflection was a distinct, communicative entity and spoke of it revealing the mansion's secrets. Within 2 weeks, she deteriorated further, convinced that mirrors throughout the home carried messages only she could decipher. She drifted from reflective surface to reflective surface, whispering to her other selves, and reacted violently when the mirrors were covered, clawing at the fabric until her fingers bled. The final collapse occurred on September 15, 1830, when Margaret gathered every mirror, polished object, and reflective item in the house into the master bedroom and arranged them in a deliberate pattern. She spent the night in frenzied dialogue with her reflections. By morning, she no longer recognized anyone, not even her husband. She insisted the figures in the glass were her true family. After consulting experts in Philadelphia, Dr. Henley recommended institutionalization. On a somber October morning, Margaret was escorted to the Pennsylvania Hospital for the Insane, calling out to invisible companions that she would return soon. She never regained her sanity. For 43 years, she wandered her cell searching endlessly for mirrors. Margaret's tragic fate shocked Millbrook's elite, yet their response reflected the prevailing attitudes toward mental illness in the 1830s. Some whispered about weak female nerves or hereditary madness, but most expressed sympathy for Jeremiah, seeing him as a victim of cruel misfortune. Contemporary medical theories often blamed women's supposed fragility or even intellectual pursuits for emotional collapse. Few questioned the house or its master. What no one yet realized was that Margaret was only the first. 4 more wives would suffer the same fate, each destroyed within the walls of Hartwell Mansion, each broken in the same room, each collapse eerily similar, and none by accident. The truth, when it finally emerged years later, would reveal a darkness deeper and more deliberate than the community could have imagined. Dr. Henley's official report to county authorities attributed Margaret's collapse to nervous overstimulation, brought on by her sudden rise in social standing and the pressures of household management. The explanation satisfied most observers, as it echoed the prevailing belief that women's minds were fragile and easily overwhelmed. For the next 3 years after Margaret's institutionalization, Jeremiah Hartwell lived in the shadow of tragedy. He withdrew from society, maintained only the essential operations of his business, and avoided public events. The master bedroom was sealed and shrouded in sheets, its grandeur hidden away, while Jeremiah relocated to a modest room on the 3rd floor. With a staff reduced to only the most necessary personnel, servants frequently reported seeing him alone in his study late at night, poring over medical volumes and corresponding with physicians about mental disorders. During this period, Hartwell developed an intense fixation on what he called the science of mental affliction. He amassed a formidable collection of works on phrenology, neurology, and cutting-edge European theories on nervous diseases. His journals, discovered long after his death, paint a portrait of a man consumed by grief and determined to find a rational cause for the madness that had claimed his wife. In 1833, news arrived that Margaret had died in the asylum, her body failing as her mind had long since deteriorated. Her funeral was quiet and private, attended only by close relatives. She was laid to rest in the Hartwell family plot, her gravestone bearing a simple inscription, "Beloved wife at peace." Yet her passing altered Jeremiah in subtle but unmistakable ways. Colleagues remarked that he had become almost unnaturally meticulous, obsessively maintaining both his personal appearance and his surroundings. He ordered that mirrors in his office be polished twice a day, and frequently checked his reflection during meetings, as if ensuring that he still appeared composed and sane. More tellingly, when he began speaking about marriage again, he did so with a detached, methodical tone, analyzing potential wives with the same calculated precision he applied to business ventures. He created what he referred to as compatibility assessments to evaluate prospective brides. It was at this time that he encountered Elena Rodriguez, the 22-year-old daughter of a Spanish merchant newly connected to Pittsburgh's industrial trade. Elena was strikingly beautiful, educated, and possessed a calm self-assurance that impressed Jeremiah. Most importantly, in his view, she displayed what he described as remarkable mental fortitude during their courtship discussions. Their engagement, announced in the spring of 1834, startled the Millbrook community. Many had assumed Hartwell would never remarry. Yet as the wedding approached, Observers reported that Jeremiah's earlier charm and sociability seemed to return. Elena appeared genuinely delighted by the prospect of overseeing the mansion on Beacon. Their June 1834 wedding, though more subdued than his first, was elegant and socially appropriate. When Elena moved into the mansion, Jeremiah made a decision that would later seem ominous. He reopened and completely refurbished the master bedroom suite. The wallpaper was replaced, the furnishings renewed, and most conspicuously, an entirely new collection of mirrors was installed throughout the chamber. Elena embraced her new role with grace and enthusiasm. She adored the master suite and often gave visiting women tours, proudly pointing out the shimmering mirrors that filled the room with reflected light. She especially loved the grand vanity mirror, spending leisurely mornings and evenings brushing her long dark hair, while chatting warmly with her maid, Maria Santos. For the first 6 months of marriage, Elena flourished socially. She was admired for her kindness, keen mind, and genuine interest in others. Confident and poised, she proved an excellent hostess, far more socially comfortable than Margaret had been. Yet by winter of 1834, subtle shifts in Elena's behavior began to trouble those closest to her. The earliest signs emerged in February 1835, unsettlingly similar to Margaret's initial symptoms, even though the staff had been strictly forbidden to speak of the former Mrs. Hartwell's illness. Maria Santos, who had accompanied Elena from her family home in Spain, documented her mistress's behavior in a private diary, later discovered hidden in the mansion's attic. "Senora Elena stays at her vanity for hours now," she wrote. "She does not watch herself. Instead, she looks just beside her reflection, as though another woman stands there. Today she whispered that someone was trying to tell her something important." By March, Elena claimed to hold mirror conversations, insisting they were not mere self-talk, but genuine dialogues. She would move from mirror to mirror throughout the mansion, speaking softly and pausing as though listening to responses. Unlike Margaret's distressed arguments with her reflection, Elena's interactions seemed calm, even pleasant. "She tells me things about this house," Elena confided to Maria, "about the family who lived here before, about secrets hidden in the walls. She gives me excellent advice on running the household." Dr. Henley was quietly summoned as the symptoms intensified. His private notes reflected deep concern, calling the resemblance to Margaret's case most troubling. But Elena remained rational and composed in every other aspect of life. She managed servants, maintained friendships, and showed none of the physical deterioration commonly associated with mental collapse. Only the mirrors held sway over her thoughts. Then, in April 1835, Elena declared she had learned a crucial truth from the presence she now called the Mirror Woman. She claimed that Margaret Hartwell remained inside the house, trapped within the reflections, and was attempting to warn future wives about hidden truths concealed within the mansion walls. Dr. Henley wrote to a colleague that Elena's fixation differed from typical spiritual delusions. She exhibited no religious frenzy, no disordered thinking outside this singular obsession. Jeremiah's response to his second wife's decline diverged sharply from his earlier reaction. Rather than seeking urgent medical intervention, he began meticulous observation, treating Elena's condition as an experiential study. His journals from this time reveal a startlingly clinical approach. He detailed the mirrors that elicited the strongest reactions, the times of day when Elena's conversations peaked, and the specific information she believed she received. "The progression parallels Margaret's," he noted, "with enough variation to imply an external influence rather than individual predisposition." Convinced that the source of the affliction might lie not within his wives, but within the environment, specifically the master suite, he began what he termed controlled experiments, documenting Elena's responses with chilling precision. The experiments produced unsettling conclusions. Elena's most intense episodes occurred in the master bedroom between sunset and midnight, always centered around the same large vanity mirror that had once captivated Margaret. Her conversations followed a consistent rhythm. She asked questions about the mansion's past and received what she believed were detailed answers about previous occupants, secret chambers, and hidden truths that must remain protected. The most disturbing insight came when Elena claimed the reflection had revealed what truly befell Margaret. According to her, Margaret had not suffered madness at all, but had uncovered a secret so grave that she was purposefully portrayed as insane to prevent her from speaking. The mirror woman says Margaret knew too much, Elena told Maria in May 1835. That is why she had to be taken away, to keep the secret safe. But she says Margaret still tries to warn others through the mirrors, because the truth will one day be known. By early summer, Elena's behavior could no longer be concealed from Millbrook society. She refused social invitations unless the host's home contained mirrors, insisting she needed to consult before engaging in polite conversation. At events without reflective surfaces, she grew restless, anxious, and often left early, returning home to her mysterious advisor. Matters reached a breaking point in August 1835, when Elena informed Jeremiah she had learned something that would alter their marriage and his standing in the community forever. It was a stifling August evening when Jeremiah found her seated before the vanity mirror in eerie stillness, hands folded in her lap, eyes locked on her reflection with profound sorrow. Without turning, she whispered, "She has shown me the truth of this house, of what happens to the women who live here, Jeremiah, of why Margaret truly went mad." Jeremiah's journal from that night describes Elena's accusations with disbelief and alarm. She claimed the mirror woman had revealed secret passages in the walls, hidden chambers used to confine unwilling victims, and evidence of medical experiments performed in secret. Elena insisted Margaret had discovered these horrors and that her subsequent institutionalization was engineered to silence her. Most chilling was Elena's assertion that the mirrors held memories of these events, visible only to women who spent enough time in the master bedroom. She did not stop at vague suspicions. She listed architectural details, described a network of hidden corridors, and, most damning, accused Jeremiah of covertly drugging his wives to induce hallucinations and madness. "The medicine you give me for my headaches," she accused, "is not medicine at all. She showed me what it does, how it makes women see illusions, how it makes them seem insane to everyone else." Jeremiah reacted swiftly. The next morning he met privately with Dr. Henley, urgently reporting Elena's escalating paranoia and conspiracies. Alarmed by the parallels to Margaret's case, Dr. Henley confirmed that Elena posed a possible danger to herself and others. "Mrs. Hartwell has constructed a system of delusions mirroring the earlier case," he wrote. "Her insistence on hidden passages and secret activities suggests a break from reality, likely intensified by isolation and the strain of household responsibility. Without intervention, violence may soon follow." But Elena refused to be quietly committed. In the days that followed, she announced she would investigate the truth and began searching the walls for the secret passages described by the mirror woman. She enlisted Maria and several staff members to tap walls, test wooden panels, and hunt for hollow spaces. Their efforts uncovered something unimaginable. Behind a wardrobe in the master bedroom, Maria found a hollow-sounding wall. A concealed panel gave way, revealing a narrow passage just wide enough for a person to squeeze through. It snaked behind several second-floor rooms and contained small observation holes, offering hidden views into the bedrooms. "She was right," Elena whispered triumphantly. "The passages exist just as she said. If this is true, then all of it must be true." The discovery sent panic through the household staff and shook Jeremiah's confidence. His journal shows a man scrambling to rationalize what could not easily be dismissed. "Elena's delusions have led to the uncovering of architectural features unknown to me," he wrote. "The previous owner never mentioned such structures. I cannot fathom their purpose. Yet Elena now interprets every corner of this house as evidence of a grand conspiracy against women in general, wives in particular." Rumors spread quickly through Millbrook, and Jeremiah faced uncomfortable questions. How could he have been unaware of such passages? Why had both wives suffered identical obsessions centered on the same room and mirrors? And what explanation could he offer that did not make him appear complicit? The situation escalated when Elena's concerned father arrived unannounced from Pittsburgh. Don Carlos Rodriguez, a sharp and seasoned businessman, was not easily swayed by polite excuses. He found his daughter calm and rational, until she spoke of the mirror woman. When Jeremiah suggested institutional care, Don Carlos demanded answers. "My daughter claims criminal acts occurred in this house," he said, voice cold and controlled. "She claims she has been given substances without consent. These are grave accusations. Their origin does not excuse them." A tense confrontation unfolded in the mirrorless library. Elena insisted she needed her advisor's presence, requesting a hand mirror. "I cannot speak of important matters without her guidance," she said. "She protected Margaret, and she protects me." Unlike the physicians and household staff, Don Carlos did not dismiss her. He asked precise questions about what the mirror woman revealed. Elena responded with information she should not have known. Detailed accounts of the mansion's earliest owner, architectural features predating Jeremiah's tenure, and, most disturbing, accurate knowledge of business deals from before she ever set foot in Millbrook. Her knowledge could not be easily explained. And in that moment, the boundary between madness, manipulation, and supernatural truth began to dissolve. Jeremiah's efforts to dismiss Elena's revelations as coincidence or clever intuition quickly crumbled. Her knowledge continued to be unnervingly precise. She named business associates Jeremiah had never mentioned, referenced confidential correspondence with investors, and, most astonishing of all, accurately recounted private discussions that had taken place in the library years before she had ever entered the household. "The mirror woman sees everything within this house," Elena insisted. "She has watched and listened for years, gathering secrets from every resident and visitor. She knows about the hidden dealings, the secret ledgers, and why Jeremiah chose this house in the first place." As she spoke, a clear pattern emerged, one that shifted the matter from medical curiosity to criminal revelation. According to the information Elena relayed, the Hartwell mansion was not merely a residence but a carefully selected surveillance hub, chosen for its hidden corridors and vantage points. Jeremiah's fortune had allegedly been built on intelligence gathered from these secret vantage points, blackmail, financial manipulation, and political leverage obtained through illicit observation. And his marriages, Elena claimed, were not emotional unions but arrangements designed to maintain a veneer of respectability while silencing those who discovered too much. The tense atmosphere was interrupted by Dr. Henley's arrival, summoned by Jeremiah to support a commitment order. Yet Don Carlos's presence transformed what Jeremiah expected to be a medical formality into a pointed inquiry into both wives' mysterious declines. "Dr. Henley," Don Carlos demanded, "what explanation can you offer for two healthy women with no history of mental disturbance developing identical symptoms after living in the same room?" Dr. Henley, clearly unsettled, admitted that while coincidence was possible, environmental factors could not be dismissed. Stress, isolation, or exposure to unknown substances might induce similar symptoms in different individuals. However, he added gravely, the fixation on mirrors and vivid, consistent reports of receiving information from reflections suggest either a shared delusion or something else. Pressed further, he conceded the possibility that both women might have been subjected to similar external influences, ones capable of producing hallucinations and altered memories while leaving other faculties seemingly intact. A heavy silence followed. If both women had been deliberately manipulated, Margaret's fate was no longer a tragic accident but a calculated silencing. Elena grew increasingly frantic as the evening progressed, but her desperation seemed grounded in urgency, not madness. She begged for a mirror to verify crucial details. Denied her request, she grew distressed and began describing locked rooms, hidden cavities, and private storage spaces, knowledge Jeremiah swore she could not possibly possess. The tension snapped when Elena abruptly rose and announced that the mirror woman had shown her where proof was concealed. She led the group upstairs to the master bedroom and directed them to a wall section behind the massive wardrobe. Following Elena's instructions, they uncovered not only the hidden passage previously found by Maria, but a secret compartment containing bundles of documents. What they discovered inside radically shifted the case from speculation to undeniable evidence. By lamplight, Don Carlos examined the papers. What emerged was even darker than Elena's fragmented warnings. First was a leather-bound ledger documenting years of covert surveillance. Page after page revealed private conversations, vulnerabilities, political secrets, and confidential business strategies overheard through hidden passages, each entry meticulously recorded in Jeremiah's unmistakable handwriting. The notes exposed a pattern of exploiting this knowledge for personal gain, manipulating investments, coercing rivals, and leveraging social acquaintances. March 15, 1829, overheard Senator Patterson revealing future railroad routes, immediate stock adjustments. June 3, 1829, Judge Dunlap confessed gambling debts to his wife, useful leverage for upcoming case. The ledger left no doubt. Jeremiah's empire rested on concealed espionage. Beside the ledger lay another envelope, correspondence sealed in oilcloth, addressed to Dr. Heinrich Zimmermann, a physician experimenting with so-called treatments for female hysteria. The letters revealed far more sinister intentions. Zimmermann described inducing controlled psychological breaks in difficult women through calculated doses of mercury compounds, laudanum derivatives, and botanical hallucinogens. His notes praised the method. The subject remained sufficiently coherent to appear sane in daily life, while obsessively fixating on hallucinations that discredit any dangerous truth she may speak. Mirrors, he wrote, were particularly effective triggers, exploiting feminine vanity to isolate delusions. In chilling clarity, the letters confirmed Elena's suspicions. She had been slowly poisoned under the guise of medical care. The headache tonics Jeremiah administered contained compounds designed to fracture her perception while ensuring she seemed physically well. Margaret had suffered the same fate. Her decline orchestrated to silence her. Discovery of Jeremiah's secret surveillance operations. The final cache of documents revealed the full scale of Jeremiah's enterprise. He was not merely spying for his own advantage. He operated a private intelligence network, serving prominent political and business figures throughout Pennsylvania. His mansion had been constructed into an information-gathering machine, complete with hidden recording mechanisms, duplicating tools, and storage for incriminating materials. His wives were not partners but strategic assets, polished social figures who gave credibility to his station while unknowingly becoming liabilities once they learned too much. Margaret had discovered his secrets and been chemically broken. Elena, once she began probing, had been placed on the same path until the mirror woman, whatever she was, intervened. Don Carlos did not hesitate. A man accustomed to power and swift action, he recognized the danger immediately. "My daughter leaves this house tonight," he declared, his voice as sharp as steel. "And these documents are going directly to the authorities." He turned to Dr. Henley. "Doctor, I trust your medical diagnosis has changed in light of this evidence." Dr. Henley's voice was strained, his professional composure shaken. "If these materials are genuine," he said slowly, "then both Mrs. Hartwells were not victims of illness at all, but of deliberate medical harm administered under false pretenses." Mrs. Margaret Hartwell and Mrs. Elena Hartwell, the doctor finally declared, had not succumbed to madness at all. They had been deliberately poisoned in a calculated effort to mimic mental illness. He stated that Elena's condition would likely improve swiftly once the toxic substances in her system were purged. Jeremiah, hearing this, remained unnervingly composed as though he had always anticipated such a moment. With practiced calm, he insisted that the papers discovered were forgeries, a product of Elena's unstable imagination, planted during her supposed delusional episodes. The letters to Dr. Zimmermann, he claimed, were fabrications meant to sustain her paranoid fantasy of being poisoned. According to him, she had descended so far into madness that she had manufactured elaborate evidence to support her delusions. But Don Carlos had foreseen this defense. He stepped forward, answering Jeremiah as coolly as he had spoken. If Jeremiah truly believed the accusations baseless, he would surely welcome chemical testing of the medicines he had given Elena, and would not object to handwriting experts examining the supposed forged documents. As Jeremiah hesitated, a voice unexpectedly sounded from the bedroom doorway. Sarah Quinn, the stern head housekeeper who had served the Hartwell household faithfully for over 10 years, entered with a look of grim resolve. She could no longer remain silent, she declared. She had watched 2 innocent women destroyed in this house and refused to witness another fall. Turning to Don Carlos, she affirmed that his daughter spoke the truth. She had seen Jeremiah administer those medicines, seen him prowl the hidden corridors to spy on guests, and watched what those sinister treatments did to the ladies who lived in that room. Sarah's confession completed the chain of proof. She held authority and access within the household, and she had witnessed more than anyone realized. She described preparing the very medicines given to both wives, bottles that did not come from Dr. Henley, but from anonymous parcels delivered privately. When she questioned Jeremiah, he told her the mixtures were advanced European treatments unavailable locally. Over time, she noticed him increasing the dosage, always during periods of seclusion in the master suite. She had watched the same tragic progression twice, the wives' growing obsession with mirrors, their isolation from others, and their gradual blurring of reality and hallucination. The worst pain, she admitted, was seeing them attempt to voice their fears, only to be dismissed as hysterical. Margaret had begged people to believe that someone was watching her through the walls, that her food tasted strange, that her reflection showed impossible things, yet her words were dismissed. When Elena began echoing these same complaints, Sarah knew with dreadful certainty that something was terribly wrong. As realization settled over the room, Dr. Henley felt his professional integrity crumble. His well-intended prescriptions had been replaced by Jeremiah's poisons, and his diagnoses had unintentionally shielded a calculated campaign of psychological destruction. The doctor insisted on examining Elena immediately. If she had indeed been subjected to prolonged dosing with hallucinogenic substances, physical evidence might remain. More importantly, they must begin treatment at once to purge any lingering toxins. Still, Jeremiah fought to protect himself. With a strategist's poise, he shifted tactics, choosing partial confession over outright denial. Yes, he admitted, he had used hidden passages to observe guests. But this had merely continued a practice begun by the house's previous owner, a tool for gaining business advantages. According to him, both wives had happened upon the passages themselves and suffered breakdowns after the shock. The medicines, he maintained, were legitimate treatments for their nerves, tragically ineffective, nothing more. Margaret, he said, had become irrational, convinced that he monitored her every move when he was merely conducting business intelligence. Elena, he insisted, had simply repeated this delusional pattern, inventing a conspiracy to explain his ordinary commercial activities. But his carefully crafted narrative shattered under the weight of Zimmerman's letters. Their precision, their medical detail, and their connection to both women's symptoms refuted every convenient lie. Don Carlos would not allow Jeremiah to weave another escape. The courts, he promised, would decide whether this was business or a criminal network founded on surveillance, manipulation, and the systematic destruction of women who learned too much. For now, Elena would leave the estate at once and be placed under care untainted by Jeremiah's influence. As the confrontation approached its end, Elena, who had remained quiet throughout much of the exchange, suddenly spoke with startling clarity. Her voice was steady, her thoughts lucid, free of the confusion that had plagued her for months. The mirror woman, she said, had not vanished. She was still present, still trying to warn others. But now Elena understood her nature. She was not a spirit or vision, but the grounded, rational part of Elena's own mind, preserved while the drugs attempted to erode her sanity. She had never been seeing another being in the glass. She had been speaking to her own unpoisoned self, desperately analyzing and remembering what the drugged Elena could not grasp. She recalled everything now. Whispered conversations overheard through the concealed corridors, documents glimpsed when Jeremiah believed her too dazed to comprehend, the correspondence with Zimmerman. The mirror woman had not been feeding her information. She had been safeguarding memories until Elena could reclaim them. The immediate aftermath sent tremors through Millbrook society and beyond. Don Carlos quickly delivered the evidence to county officials, while Dr. Henley documented Elena's rapid recovery as proof that her suffering had been artificially induced. Freed from Jeremiah's toxic concoctions, her symptoms vanished within days. The obsessive fixation on mirrors dissolved as her natural clarity returned, and her ability to distinguish hallucination from truth restored itself completely. Elena Hartwell, once dismissed as mad, stood vindicated at last, while the walls of Jeremiah Hartwell's empire, built on secrets, manipulation, and cruelty, began to crumble around him. Most importantly, Elena's restored memory, crisp, detailed, and painfully precise, gave investigators an unbroken account of every secret she had gathered during her months of drug-induced confusion. That testimony, combined with the evidence hidden in the estate, exposed the full breadth of what prosecutors soon branded the Hartwell conspiracy. From the mansion's sealed chambers emerged years of meticulously recorded espionage, coercion, and information for hire that had contaminated business and politics across western Pennsylvania. Judges, politicians, and wealthy industrialists had quietly paid Jeremiah for confidential intelligence, to sabotage their rivals. Margaret Hartwell's tragic decline was re-evaluated in light of this discovery. Investigators exhumed her remains and, using the most advanced forensic methods available in 1835, identified traces of mercury and other toxins. She had not died from madness but from a deliberate incremental poisoning. Her death was reclassified as murder, and Jeremiah now faced charges not only of conspiracy and fraud, but homicide. Records supplied by the Pennsylvania Hospital for the Insane showed that Margaret had experienced flashes of mental clarity during her confinement. During those lucid intervals, she had repeatedly accused her husband of poisoning women to conceal his criminal enterprises. Once dismissed as delusions, her statements were now recognized as truthful testimony, suppressed by cruelty and misunderstanding. Sarah Quinn's decision to speak publicly against Jeremiah proved instrumental. Her intimate knowledge of the household's routines, coupled with her long-standing observations of both wives' decline, allowed investigators to trace the pattern of poisoning with precision. She also revealed troubling information about other visitors who had suffered strange ailments after staying at the mansion. Meanwhile, Dr. Zimmerman was located in Philadelphia, where he had been conducting similar experiments at a private asylum. His arrest led authorities to uncover a wider network of physicians and businessmen using medical substances as tools of control and punishment against women deemed troublesome or dangerous to male ambition. Newspapers soon labeled the scandal the poisoning conspiracy, and its fallout ensnared dozens of powerful men across Pennsylvania and neighboring states, accused of orchestrating similar chemical torment to silence wives, daughters, and female associates. Jeremiah's trial became one of the most dramatic criminal cases in state history. The prosecution relied on Elena's clear and measured testimony, Sarah's first-hand accounts, and the wealth of documentation from the mansion's hidden rooms. The final blow came when Dr. Zimmerman agreed to cooperate, offering expert testimony about the compounds used and confirming Jeremiah's role. In desperation, the defense claimed Jeremiah himself had been manipulated by Zimmerman and other conspirators, arguing that he believed he was treating mentally ill wives rather than harming them. The argument collapsed when prosecutors revealed letters proving Jeremiah had initiated contact and specifically requested substances designed to induce apparent insanity without disabling physical function. The jury delivered a unanimous verdict: guilty on all charges, including first-degree murder for Margaret, attempted murder for Elena, and multiple counts of conspiracy, fraud, and extortion. The judge imposed the harshest sentence allowable: death by hanging within 30 days. By the time Jeremiah faced execution in December of 1835, Elena had fully recovered. She returned to her father's home in Pittsburgh, resumed her social life gradually, and eventually married a successful merchant who specialized in goods imported from Spain. Though she lived long and peacefully thereafter, she never again spoke publicly of her ordeal except during the trial. The Hartwell mansion, stripped of its grandeur, became a symbol of a darker era, a monument to ambition unrestrained by morality, and to a society eager to label women as unstable when they dared speak inconvenient truths. The property was sold to settle Jeremiah's debts and later converted into a boarding house for railroad workers. Its secret corridors were sealed, mirrors removed, and the ominous master bedroom partitioned into small, prosaic chambers. Yet the impact of the Hartwell conspiracy endured far beyond the fate of the estate. The trial inspired major legal reforms in Pennsylvania's mental health laws, requiring independent evaluation before confinement and greater oversight of private institutions. It ignited debate about how medical authority could be twisted into a weapon and emphasized the urgent need to protect women's legal and bodily rights. Dr. Henley, shattered by the realization of his unwitting complicity, devoted the remainder of his life to studying the psychological impact of toxins. Using funds awarded through compensation from Jeremiah's estate, he advanced early forensic toxicology and became a vocal advocate for women's medical dignity and equal treatment. The truths revealed about Margaret and Elena forced the public to confront an unsettling question: how many other women had been silenced under the guise of medical care? Historical records from the era now suggest that the Hartwell case, though extraordinary in its exposure, reflected a widespread pattern of abuse that likely claimed countless victims who never received justice. Their stories remained buried behind institutional walls and domestic respectability. The tragedy also underscored the necessity of listening, truly listening, when individuals describe experiences others find implausible or unsettling. Margaret and Elena's warnings had been dismissed as hysteria, when in truth they were describing their reality with clarity and desperation. Today, the former site of the Hartwell mansion lies within a quiet park on the outskirts of modern Pittsburgh. In 1985, exactly a century and a half after Jeremiah's execution, a historical marker was placed there. It honors Margaret Dunlap Hartwell, Elena Rodriguez Hartwell, and all victims of medical exploitation. Its inscription recognizes their courage in seeking truth against overwhelming power and acknowledges the protections their suffering helped secure for future generations. This chilling account serves as a reminder of how easily those in authority can prey upon the vulnerable and how vital it remains to take seriously the voices of those who insist that the world they are experiencing is not the one others believe exists.